Our next session is impactful virtual spelling, and it's done by one of our action coaches in India, Mr. Ratish Pandey. He's a certified business coach with ActionCOACH India. He comes with over 35 years of corporate experience in India and overseas. He's skilled in a multitude of areas such as business development, profitability improvement, and has handled diverse aspects of a business successfully and won across. An alumni of the Bose Leadership Institute and also having secured a degree in Chartered Accountancy, Ratish has held diverse aspects of businesses successfully and won accolades in exceptional work in assisting SME business owners in addressing their challenges and achieve higher growth for their business, their teams, as well as their personal goals. With this, I hand it over to Ratish and welcome him for the session.
Thank you, Satyam. I hope I'm audible to everybody.
Yes, you are.
Okay, great. What I wanted to do was quickly set the perspective, and then I wanted to get out of the video to ensure that I have ability to deliver the presentation in a much more succinct manner and with clarity on audio. So with that, I will go into my presentation mode and we'll try and get things moving quickly. What I wanted to do was, first thing, thank you all for joining me today. And I wanted to really start by placing on record my gratitude to the ActionCOACH India team. Believe me, Gaurav, Maria, Venus Parak, Satyam, yourself, Dheeraj, Mansi, and everybody in the background has done a fantastic event in the past 2 days, and I'm sure there are exciting sessions lined up going forward also for the rest of the day. I'm glad to be part of this summit and contribute my piece, share my knowledge with this group. I know all of you have had an overload of learning since yesterday, but the great thing is that sessions have been fantastic, and what is just give me a second. I believe something is wrong with my video. Just hold on for a minute. Is it better now? Yeah. So today I have a very interesting topic. And before I go on, I have a quick question of all of you. And the question is, how many of you today attending this are salespersons? You can write down in the chat box or just mention, raise your hand, whatever you think will work. Great. If you are running a business, then you are in sales, right? And the bigger piece is all of us today are dealing with this pandemic, and we're dealing it in our own way. And I'm sure all of you are taking this, attending this webinar in the safety of your homes, trying to stay safe and be secure with yourself and your family. This is the worst healthcare epidemic that humankind has faced, and like many others, I'm sure we'll ultimately overcome it. There are countries which have overcome it. There are countries who are battling with it with all the forces that they can get. My focus today is really the impact that this pandemic is having on the way we are required to conduct our business. For instance, today, when somebody mentions a sales call, what do you automatically think of? Well, you think of a call over phone, or a Zoom, or a Microsoft Teams, Skype, or Slack. Since last month, sales professionals have really had to fast track their learning on the science of remote sales. Well, I'm going to share some ideas that would help you navigate these specific challenges and emerge a winner. Just as a note, we'll have time for questions. Keep typing your questions in the question box, and I'll try and address them at the end of my talk. What is happening? Just hold on for a second. Yep. There we go. So what exactly is selling? Well, the simplest definition that I have for you is selling is professionally helping other people to buy.
Ratish, I'm sorry to interrupt. We cannot see your screen.
Just hold on for a second. You cannot see the screen?
No, you have to share your screen.
Well,
from the share video on this panel. Yeah.
Are we good now?
We're good to go.
Okay. Sorry about that, folks. So selling is professionally helping other people to buy. And, Peter Bulka just a couple of sessions back talked about this. Give a person to fish and you feed them for a day, but teach a person to fish and you feed them for a life. Every professional salesperson, even today, finds making sales a challenge. And this is not because they have not trained themselves in the art of selling. They train and train and train hard. But the biggest challenge in sales is one needs to appeal to both the human emotions and the logic. And that is where the key is. And to sell well, every business needs a sales strategy. Sales strategy provides guidance to the sales team and defines expectations and boundaries on various aspects. It lays down for the salesperson how to position the products and services, what differentiates the products and services, and who is your target audience. So quick question here. How many of us who run organizations and who have joined in today have a sales strategy in place? Yeah. So some have, some don't. So Sales strategy also is used as a guiding post most often to steer sales professionals reach their targets. Hence, it becomes really important to include information like growth over last year, what are you targeting, key performance indices, what channels would you sell through, like direct to customer, offline or online, what are the distribution models that you're planning to have. While laying out the sales strategy, most organizations like to clarify product positioning and help the sales force with a competitive analysis also as against their competition. Right? In the current situation, with almost 80% of the world economy under lockdown-like conditions because of the corona, businesses are literally being run from home offices, if at all they are being run. And in today, current reality is that you may not be able to change this reality of today's world. So should virtual selling be part of your sales strategy? Absolutely yes. What you have to remember in virtual selling is that when you're not meeting face to face, when you're over a video call, your presence most often is reduced to a small thumbnail. I wanted to share this survey of more than 2,900 sales professionals. Remember, this survey is dated 2020 BC, 2020 before Corona. And Salesforce surveyed more than 2,900 sales professionals worldwide and asked them where are they spending most of their time and how is that time spent changing. And what they found in the last 5 years, from 2015 to 2020, meeting in person with customers and prospects grew only 4%, whereas connecting virtually with customers and prospects grew 3 times faster than that at 12%. Remember, so this change of virtual sales calls had already started. With the effect of the current pandemic, the number of virtual sales calls actually has skyrocketed. These days, if there's any sales conversation happening, it is virtual. Are salespeople confident of selling remotely? What are the perceptions, beliefs that really hinder virtual selling? The first thing that comes to mind is virtually capturing the audience attention. Can it be done effectively? The first thing that comes to mind is capturing audience attention. Believe me, that is one of the most crucial steps that you have to do. Can one build relationships remotely as against a face-to-face conversation or a relationship building that happens in physical spaces? How do you build relationships virtually? And lastly, is your presentation very dry and passive? Will it virtually grab the attention of your audience? What needs to change? So how can you all have an impactful virtual sales call? Remember, once the sales deck or the sales presentation, PowerPoint presentation that you had on your laptop when you walked into a customer meeting room, it was designed to be the backdrop for an in-person conversation because you were standing in front of that PowerPoint and delivering it. that presentation now becomes the focus of attention, and you actually recede to the background when you're just delivering it virtually. So how do we overcome these challenges? As we go forward, I wanted to quickly give you a quick sense of a very old concept. And this is attention, interest, desire, and action, called the AIDA. The AIDA principle is an acronym, and it was coined by way back. This is like really old. There's this American guy, and he was a legend for sales and advertising, called Elmo Lewis, and he started it in 1880. This concept was put forward by Elmo Lewis in 1880. And the idea behind AIDA is that the customer moves through a series of thinking, feeling stages, which in the end lead to desire and action or behavioral stage, meaning it leads to sales happening. A great example is Coke in 2005, Coca-Cola company in 2005 wanted to introduce a brand new product. And they were running, they already had the Coke regular, and then they had the Diet Coke already in the marketplace. What they wanted to introduce to the marketplace was Coke Zero. So Coke started 2 months before the actual launch of the product by simple ads, which had the standard Coke red color. And on top of that, they had mentioned very boldly zero. And that sparked the interest, attention, and interest. And the interest was brought in by talking about it, that it is zero sugar. 2 months later, when Coke finally released the product was in the highest orbit that Coke wanted it to be. The target audience in this case was the young males in the US. It was in those times when it was launched in 2005, also known as the bloke Coke, very clearly targeted at a specific target audience of young males. Humans communicate with written words. They communicate with speech, but more importantly, they also communicate big time with body language. And in today's world, where information flow is 24/7, coming to you from print or web, social media, whatever have you, television, it is a too much world today. Too much of information coming to you, many more things, many more complexities, and too much vying for attention of your buyer. From news, social media, to Google, Quora, Wiki, information is at fingertips. Better still, merely needs to be asked for from Siri, from Alexa, from OK Google. I'll give you a great example. I was unwell, and as is usual in India, I visited my local GP. He said, okay, great, Ratish, why don't you take these tests? And my suggestion is that you go and visit a specialist doctor at so-and-so hospital, a close by hospital. So I followed it, advised, went through my blood profiling or whatever was required. And here I walk into the hospital after the take an appointment with the specialist, walk in with my better half, and we walk in, sit down. The specialist, very nice, talks, smiles, you know, why are you here? I showed him my GP's prescription and the blood reports, and I said, this is why we are here. So he smiles, looks up and says, so Mr. Pandey, what can I tell you more that you've not read on Google already? That is what I'm talking about. There is too much of information coming to us and available to us at our fingertips. Remember, that is where the virtual sales call comes into play. Because of this too much work, research has shown that the attention span in today's too much of world is very, very low. Audiences forget 90% of what you present in 48 hours. So how does one ensure the key message goes through to the audience so much that he or she is able to relate further? So think back. I'm sure some of you have attended this conference and are with us since yesterday morning. Those of you who attended yesterday's first session on how to get into the second orbit, can you think and can you remember everything that was taught? And that is exactly what I'm talking about. And it is still not 48 hours. It's probably 30 hours from yesterday morning start. So what do you need to do? You need to control the balance 10% that the audience will remember. It will be that 10% that the audience remembers and link that 10% to desired action that you need from your buyer. So you have to think really hard how and what is the key 10% message and how do you really make it powerful that that is what your buyer remembers. You can even replace the agenda with your most important message. And I have a wonderful example right here for you. To set the context, and this is just a hypothetical case. So imagine you have to present current COVID era. You have to talk about how are you going to improve and manage your cash flow over the next 90 days. And you've been asked to make a presentation on exactly the cash flow situation and what would be your plan. So sample agenda typically would be review the overall cash situation, number one. Number two, review current assets. What are your liabilities? What are your current assets? Look at top debtors, where the money can possibly come from. Determine the cash flow gap and then put an execution plan in place. Instead of that, think of your real 10% message. And what if your top line, slide clearly says, improve cash flow by offering cash discounts to all A customers for the next 90 days, recovering 80% debts which are less than 60 days within the 90-day plan, reviving the existing credit line with the bank in the next fortnight. So what you really made an immediate impact in the discussion and got the audience's attention. In the end, this is the 10% that you want everybody to remember. Provide value from the opening discussion in the first minute. Also in this opening discussion, you need to quickly establish your perspective on the customer's problem, fresh idea or a challenge. This will come from your experience of selling your products and So researching the customer. Remember, you've sold your products and solutions 100 times over, whereas your customer is probably buying your product or service for the first time. So you have that advantage. You know your products and solutions. You've done your customer research. So you are offering a unique perspective, and link that unique perspective to the customer's problem. It's always about the customer's problems and the solutions that you have to offer, not about your product and solutions. And I have a great example here again. So here is a salesperson who was selling data management services and storage services, data management and data storage services to various companies. As we know, most car companies, their name, across the world today are obsessed with autonomous and trial runs related to that. Not only car companies, even Google is. So here's how the conversation went between the seller and the customer. So the salesperson walks in and mentions it to the seller. And here he's done his research. And how is he positioning his product and services without talking about them? He says, Mr. Customer, I'm sure you're aware that Twitter's 270 million users produce about 100 gigabyte of data per day. Whereas a single autonomous test vehicle that you run on the road on a daily basis for trial runs actually produces 30 terabyte per day. And that, Mr. Customer, is 3,000 times the scope of those 270 Twitter users' data. So, Mr. Customer, as an autonomous vehicle service provider, you actually really need to revolutionize your data storage and management at the back end. What is your company doing for this? And how, from being an automotive manufacturer, you're also going to be a data storage and a management company. So how well the salesperson positioned it in terms of how to go about and in the end bring the discussion to the products and services that he's going to offer. Another example, and this is on customer research, Sally Beauty is a US company that offers beauty products, sells beauty products. And I'll take you back about 15 years when they had launched their online sales. So as has happened, Sally Beauty today, and those days also had about 2,000. Today they have about 4,000 storefronts across the US. Pretty strong company, sales in the range of about $7.5 billion. 15 years back, when they started thinking of online sales, as has happened, somebody in the company came up with the idea, let's have some e-commerce products, e-commerce portal, somebody set it up, and things started rolling. And this example is not on sales, but really about a sales, an employee, a prospective employee who walks into Sally Beauty for the position of an e-commerce manager. And obviously this employee did some research before he walks into for his interview. And off the bat, he mentioned why the e-commerce company is losing about 20% of their sales, even when they had just started off. And he had done his research. He mentioned that, look, I went ahead and I decided to buy a product from your portal. And as usual, when I went in, I selected, I added to cart, and then obviously I had to log in. And he mentioned that there was no guest login or guest checkout. Whereas clearly competition like Amazon already had a guest checkout, which means I don't need to provide you with my data. I just needed to log out. And he then clearly mentioned to them that companies who do not provide guest checkout without providing a full login lose about 20% of their sales on e-commerce platforms. And what happened? Great research that he did obviously got him the job, but Sally Beauty actually were able to increase their online sales about 15% just off the bat with one research that this possible employee had done. Let's go ahead. Where is the unique value that you're offering? The key is framing this discussion where you offer unique value. However, remember, in all cases, it's about the customer's problem and not your products and services. Never it is. Your perspective should evoke responses from customers, which would lead to customers admitting that they have problems that need to be solved. Finally, it is these problems that your products and services can solve. And along with that, you also have to bring out uncovered needs that the customer is not even thought of. Great example, and this is closer home back, and I'll love to mention this company, which is in legal tech area called Lloyd. So Lloyd provides discoverability to the legal fraternity in India. And one big thing that lawyers most often thought, the only way that they can make themselves discoverable is possibly having an office in a legal chamber, as they say, in one of the courts that they practice. And then obviously, because it's a profession, you're not allowed to advertise and stuff like that. But what Lloyd did was that it started offering, and again, it's they uncovered that need in front of the lawyers, where they started offering LinkedIn promotion services to these lawyers and offering them content management and stuff like that. And that really, really helped their members, lawyers who were members on their portal. Another great example, and this is another area that I was part of way back, that is close to me. This was a real case where there was a large bid for public address and voice alarm system. The bid was won by a company which offered cloud monitoring over devices, a feature not even considered by the bidders or by the solution architects. The salesperson walked in and during the discussion offered the fact that, hey, for such an important solution, you don't have cloud monitoring. And because the salesperson had products and solutions that met that need, talked about it, uncovered that need, and walked off with the order. Engage with your audience in a much better. And the first principle there, especially in a great virtual call, is having the camera on for both sides. It's a huge advantage. It forces people to be professional about the call. Be focused and not multitask. Not only that, remember we talked about body language? With a face-to-face video call, you can understand the body language of your buyers on the other side. However, for the camera on, it's always polite to give your audience and give your buyers a heads up that you would prefer a video call rather than a phone call or an audio call. So giving them a heads up so that they also understand it's a very professional call and they focus on the call and the matter that is being discussed. During the call, have the audience engage. In a conversation with you, it should not merely be a PowerPoint presentation with you doing all the talking. It's always good to have a couple of scenarios laid down for discussion with the buyer. It makes very good engaging conversation and lays out the issue on the table in a manner that allows for meaningful forward steps to be taken. So you have to think what you need to get your audience to engage. And most often, it's not about just pushing and presenting about your products and solutions, but really thinking about what their problems are and what are likely one or two solutions that they can work towards. That is where the audience gets engaged. Leads to far more productive conversations. Having a dynamic presentation really makes the difference. Typically, you are competing with a highly distracting on-screen environment. When you're presenting, the audience has his or her email, has access to news, has access to WhatsApp, has access to the web. And all this is happening in front of the same screen on which you are presenting. So to cut through the noise and win, your presentation visuals really need to hook up your audience, keep them engaged, deliver a highly memorable message that inspires decisive action. Passive presentations do not help you. Capture and keep people's attention. That is crucial. And I'm giving you three, four things that you need to really always think through when you're looking and making your presentation. Reduce slide information. 3 or 4 bullets on a single slide is more than ample. Use colors and colors to highlight things. So for example, if you're showing degrowth, showing it with red. If you're showing positive growth, using the color green. Human minds are connected with red, especially business minds are connected with the red and green. So use that. If you're presenting a data slide, lot of Excels, you can highlight the specific cells that you want to focus people on, and you can make the rest of the Excel sheet in a grayscale. What that does is it quickly brings to fore where you want your audience to focus on. Using size of the font absolutely makes a lot of difference. If you want to say something in bold, something that people need to remember, you can increase the size. Having animation on the presentation really adds value, again, to hold the attention of the audience. As I close my presentation, I'll take you back to the 10% message. And that really is my 10% message for you. The audience will remember 90%. Believe me, all of you will within 48 hours of attending this presentation. But what I hope is that after the 48 hours, you will remember that the 10% of your crucial message, which you need to pass on to your buyer, is what you really need to focus on and make it so attractive, make it so powerful that everybody remembers that, those who attended it. I close with our chairman's quote: words can inspire, thoughts can provoke, but only action truly brings you closer to your dreams. Thank you so much. I'm of course open to questions. I hope you really found it useful. I see there are some questions that are there. So Satyam, will you take me through, or do you want me to take them?
Yeah, I'll take you through. So one of the questions that is coming in is that is it good to, like, when you're selling virtually, is it good to have a PPT, or you should just put on your video and just interact with the customer?
Uh, it's a very good question. Depends on what you want to do. Uh, so if you want to, if you have some ideas to present, it absolutely is important to have a presentation, because most often if it's a complex idea that you want to present, if there is product feature set that you want to present and things like that, or if, as I mentioned, if you want to share some scenarios with the customer, it always is better to have it in front of them, because in the end, post the call, you can always send that presentation as a reminder. So remember, they, after 48 hours, they would have already, they're down to 10%. So what do? If within 24 hours or 36 hours, you send that copy of the presentation, you're actually reinforcing your message.
Yeah. So another question that we have is, like, when you are having a sales pitch during on a webinar, is it important to make it interactive by keeping all the participants on the video with their audios on, or should we just limit them to the chat windows?
So ideally, everybody should be on with their videos on. And the advantage, as I mentioned, is you can read body languages in a far better fashion when the video is on. You can see who is multitasking and who is not. And that really makes a huge difference, because then you know whether you have control of the meeting or you're losing control, or your message is not powerful enough that people are doing other stuff.
How should a salesperson cope up during a virtual selling webinar when people kind of interrupt or send unprofessional chat conversations? It can take a setback for the sales professional. How to deal with certain situations?
Good question. I've heard about Zoom bombing these days. There are situations where, you know, especially when you are trying to sell to a large unknown audience, there are people who sort of Zoom bomb, and that is where most often it's the admin's role to cut those people out of the meeting, because they are not adding to productivity for everybody else's time.
Okay. So someone is asking you to share the slide 3 and take back. If you can take back to slide number 3 and just go.
Slide 3 was on. What was it about?
Tools of communication.
Slide 3 was about fish and okay, tools of communication. Can you ask this person to clarify once again the specific?
Yeah. How important is energy in selling virtual?
Absolutely. Having and sort of my benchmark for energy is what we went through in the first session in the morning. Look at Brad at 10 p.m. in the night. What a fantastic presentation that he gave to all of us. You know, it was 10 p.m. in Las Vegas, and you felt that it was like 6 in the morning for him, charged up and delivering a presentation. You know, it was just amazing. So yes, absolutely. Highly energetic presentation wins you a lot of points.
There are a lot of questions coming in the chat window. Do you want to pick and choose any one of them?
Big customers who are not working on laptop, the big customers who are not working on laptop or any computer, then how to engage with them or connect with them? Well, it could be possible that you're presenting to a CEO or CXO. Most often, a CEO or a CXO person would have, in current day and age, access to a laptop or a meeting room where they would have access to large screen where you can present. If there is no chance that they don't have a laptop, then the possibility is that you send them your presentation earlier over email so that they have a print copy in front of them. Something like that you'll have to do. Can you send us links which Mr. Brad Sugar gave us? I left the meeting and joined back. I'm sure we'll follow up on this.
So another question that we have is, Ratish, not all items or all products or services can be sold online. So if a particular product is not something that can be sold online, what should be the strategy given the current situation?
So it's actually a brilliant question. Obviously, as I mentioned, not all businesses today are open. If you are running a restaurant and you're not offering any delivery services also, then you're shut literally. And those are products and services that you cannot sell online. And obviously at that point of time, if you're not selling products online or you cannot have a virtual call, then you'll have to find other ways to reach out to your customers. But if your business is shut, even if your business currently is shut, you have to figure out ways to keep in customers' minds. For example, if you, and I'm sure you would have seen, most of the Indian airlines are shut, but they really came up with a very nice Twitter feed that, they bounced around each other. Basically, again, despite the fact that they're shut, they were in people's minds that, okay, yeah, we have airlines and who sort of really shut and parked their planes in different areas. So it's all about what products and services do you have. If you have a business that is running, I'm sure you can reach out to people over phone or Zoom or Skype or Microsoft Teams or Slack or whatever you're using. If your business is not running, then the best way to do is continue to advertise over social media and be on top of people's minds.
Great. I guess, Ratish, that is what we had in terms of questions. If there's a closing note you want to give, we can go ahead.
Again, I just wanted to thank everybody who attended this session. I hope you found value in the time that you invested with me. If there are any more questions, you already know my contacts. You can reach out to ActionCOACH India or to me directly, and we'll be happy to help with you and work with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ratish, for joining us today and putting the information together. As a token of appreciation, we have an e-certificate for you. Just thanking you for putting this information and sharing it with everyone. And thank you so much again.
Thank you. Thank you, Satyam and team. Bye-bye.